Special edition IFA. Yes, that's the International Franchise Association. We're doing an episode of Franchise Envy where I talk to happy, successful franchisees. So I have a special guest I'll introduce in a moment, and I have the brand president because it's the IFA edition in Las Vegas in my fancy hotel suite.
Up next.
This is gold right here. I'll tell you why, Todd.
We call him up to talk. We'll be maybe exchanging some pleasantries, just checking in on how he's doing. And Bob will say, "You're not making me any money. I got to go." And he hangs up.
What Bob's talking about is the reason he's been able to scale so quickly. So welcome once again. I have Todd Bingham, the brand president of Top Rail Fence. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you.
And I have Mr. Bob Stewart, the Franchisee of the Year. Listen to this, everybody. Franchisee of the Year as designated by the IFA. He won that big award. Also from Top Rail Fence and also from Homefront Brands. So you're a 3-time Franchisee of the Year winner. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank
Nice
you
to meet you.
us.
And welcome to you as
Thank
well,
you.
Todd.
Thank you for having me too.
Hey, I'm excited to talk to you guys. A little kind of mashup of how we do Franchise Envy. Bob, how long have you been a franchisee?
Roughly about 2 years.
And how did this come about? Why Top Rail Fence? Why a franchise?
Well, first of all, I was in the fencing business for over 14 years prior.
Aha!
So I was independent, and I was looking for an exit strategy where I could bloom something to success for my future, basically, is what I'm looking at. My future and my family.
Okay.
And I found that Top Rail was the home for me.
So we have to back that up probably a little bit. So you were in the fence business because some people, when they're looking at franchises, they want to know, do I need any experience? Like when you get in the air conditioning business, logically it's so technical, or if you're going to be in the electrical business. So is fencing required when you get into the fencing business?
It's not required. Certainly doesn't hurt, but no, it's not required. So training, all of the stuff that we can provide helps teach them about the fencing business. Plus, we want you working on the business, not in the business. So
Gotcha.
You need to learn how to manage people, but we'll teach you all the stuff you need to know about fencing.
So Bob, being in the fencing business, so did you actually still have a fencing business, or were you?
I did not.
Okay.
I sold out with my partner, my original partner, and looked to go on my own.
Awesome. And what got you excited about what sold you on Top Rail?
Really, the team that is at Top Rail was absolutely top notch. Their professionalism, their honesty, their integrity, their just the way they want to do business and help everybody succeed drove me to say this is the family I want to end my career with.
Now, I happen to know, because I've owned a lot of franchises, that a lot of people look at support. What kind of support are they going to give? Well, you were in the fence business, so you know a thing or two, but you probably looked at the vendor relations and the purchasing programs to get better deals maybe than you were able to get.
I did.
And certainly marketing. Talk a little bit about some of those specific buckets.
Yeah, those specifics came in play, certainly, and they always do because it's an economic play. And obviously you do have the economy of scale as far as working with the franchisor. And we do get all those benefits. If I was just on my own, I would lose probably about 25-30% just based on numbers, looking at that aspect of the business. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I love what you just answered, because people sort of balance this equation when I'm deciding if I'm going to do something on my own or I'm going to invest in a franchise. I think a lot of people are really short-sighted because they see they have to pay a franchise fee. They know they're going to have to pay an ongoing royalty of some kind, 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%. And they start calculating and saying, this isn't worth it. But I always say, if you can save on the materials and you have sales much higher because you're part of this brand that is bigger than you, it's a winner, right?
All day long.
Yeah.
So, and make no mistake, Bob's a little bit humble. Bob gives back to our franchise system as well. So, I've always said in my career, a high-performing franchise system is franchisees supporting other franchisees. That's when we know we've got it licked. And Bob is one of those franchisees that help support other franchisees.
This is gold right here. I'll tell you why, Todd. Because when people join a franchise, they know they have some sort of training that they're going to get.
Yep.
They know there's some sort of ongoing support. That's not necessarily the end of the training and the mentorship. But what they forget is, Tony Robbins have these masterminds. He has these big masterminds. You pay $50,000 or even more these days. I heard one of these guys was like $250,000.
Yeah.
But there's value for people depending on where they are in their life and their career. You join a franchise, it's truly like joining a mastermind because you get Bob.
You get Bob. You
We get each other.
Yeah, it's community. I mean, there's a community of franchisees that help each other out. That's when you have a high-performing franchise system. We can help, but when they help each other, that's when we know we got something.
So let's cut to the chase here. People listening are like, this sounds nice. This sounds great. Fence guy gets into a fence franchise, obviously does big business. Bob, you do really big business. When you invested in Top Rail Fence, you bought 2 territories?
I did.
This was how long ago?
About 18 months ago.
18 months ago, you invested in 2 territories. And what was that investment roughly? You might remember exactly, though.
It was 6 figures.
6 figures. Okay, but that's still light if it was just 100 and change or so.
100 and some change.
Yeah, because Top Rail doesn't require you, to invest in all this inventory and whatever, right? And in the first 18 months or so, you say it how you wish. What was your revenue?
2.7 million.
2.7 million in the first 18 months?
Correct. This year, our target is about 4 million, and I'll get an additional 2 more territories. So I'm going to run at between 5.5 and 6 million for 2025.
Give me one secret to your success that maybe isn't even a secret. It's not the I have to kill you thing
It's
or
not
you have
secret
to kill me.
sauce. It's dedication, hard work, and dedication to the program and to the success of your customers. Customers are absolutely the keynote to my success and my team that's behind me. Everyone that works with me, works for me, and they're part of my family.
Yeah. This is amazing. So were you part of the selection process that brought Bob on board?
Absolutely. Yep. 100%.
So you knew the minute you met this guy that he was going to be a superstar? Tell the truth.
No, you don't know.
You don't know.
I've been doing this, true story. I've been doing this long enough to know that, because if we all knew that, we would all be gazillionaires,
yes.
right? I mean, there's no science to it. Although you do get feelings about it. And so after talking to Bob, listening to his story, you start sensing if somebody's going to be successful. You could sense Bob would be, on that top end of successful owners, but you truly never know for sure.
Whether he's going to leave the house.
That's correct. Yep. But he had all the characteristics of it, and funny story about Bob. And this is true, Bob. You talk to Bob, and there's times when call him up to talk. We'll be maybe exchanging some pleasantries, just checking in on how he's doing. And Bob will say, "You're not making me any money. I got to go." And he hangs up. And that Bob's
what
out.
What have you done for me lately?
That's right. But that's the thing is he's
I
usually
say that in good haste.
100%. It's because he's either going to a customer's house or maybe standing in front of a customer or about to stand in front of a customer, and he needs to get to work. And so one of the characteristics you asked him earlier, what is characteristic or one thing to make him successful, is, and he says this is something he actually says too. He's got to put on his boots and go to work. And so he does that Saturday mornings. I talked to him 3 Saturdays ago, and him and Stacy were in the car. His wife Stacy were in the car doing estimates before they went shopping. I mean, so that's a characteristic, and what contributes to making Bob successful is he's not afraid of the work. He goes to work. I recently did a ride along with him back in September of last year, so the 1 year of anniversary of him opening up. So he's been a part of Franchisee for 18 months. He's really only been open about 14 to 15 months. So he did that kind of revenue in that amount of time. But I went out to ride along with Bob, and I was running to keep up with him, trying to keep up. And he's going, because we've got to go to the next thing. We've got to go do and customer service is his priority. That is true. He has the most 5-star reviews of our franchisees in our system, and he prides himself on taking care of the customer. They're not always right, but he makes it right for them, and that's really key and important.
My old favorite expression, the customer is not always right, but the customer is always the customer.
That's right. And they always pay, or they may have to pay.
And years ago, before Yelp and all the Google reviews, you were okay if you had to blow off a bad customer. Nowadays, you can't do that.
Can't do it. You cannot do it. Yeah.
So obviously, Bob knows what he's doing in all respects. How many staff do you have?
I run 3 different crews, 2 to 3 men on each crew. And I got a project manager and a couple salespeople.
Any of these folks used to work for you before?
A couple of them did follow me.
I love it.
Yes, they did.
That's always a great
I did not
indication.
poach them. If you ever had an interview with those folks, they came to me for their own accord and for their own reasons. But I never approached anyone to come aboard with me. I can stand on my own 2 feet, but I was welcoming them with open arms.
So we talked about this a little bit, some of your secrets, but now I have a follow-up to what you just said. So culturally, as people are following you, because there's a lot of bosses that people are not following. What's that old expression? If you're not a good leader and you go up the hill and you're charging up the hill and you look behind and nobody's behind you, they don't want to follow you. You're not a good leader. They don't want to work with you. Obviously, you've been a great leader. How do you build a great culture? Is it listening? Is it just mutual respect?
It's mutual respect. It's listening. It's all of the above. Most importantly, it's taking the effort to knowing their families and their needs. If they need something outside the business, I'm there for them. I'm visiting with them on birthdays. I'm visiting with them with new babies arriving, things like that. If someone's car's broken down and they need extra help there, I'm going to make sure they get it.
Todd, talk a little bit about the process and how you select franchisees to get future Bobs. How do you make sure people just don't, kind of like in an interview when you're hiring people that are really good are going to tell you exactly what they know you want to hear in order to get in, and then they're probably no good. So franchise owners tend to do the same thing, right? They tell stories.
They do.
So talk about your process.
Yeah. So at Homefront, not just for Top Rail, but at Homefront Brands, we have a pretty specific process. Part of that is they go through, they work with one of our franchise development managers, or I think we call them directors. So they work with one of our franchise development directors through the process. All their questions answered. They have a couple of calls with myself, and they also go through the validation process. Bob's also very kind to do some of the validation calls. And so we want future franchisees to talk with franchisees.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know we're not perfect. As a franchisor, we're not perfect. We strive to be, but we know we got a lot of work to do. We're a young, emerging brand. There's a lot of stuff that we can get better on. And so we want future franchisees to hear all the good, the bad, the ugly from existing franchisees. Okay. We want an informed decision. As long as they get an informed decision, we're okay with that. And then we bring them into our office in Huntersville, North Carolina, so greater Charlotte area. They get to come in, they get to meet the team, all the team, from Jeff Duden, the founder and CEO, all the way down to every person on the marketing and technology team. Okay, we want them to we want to see that it's not just a couple of people in a back room trying to run a franchise. There's a lot of people invested and involved in this. And so we have a mutual, and we encourage our staff to sit with them at lunch, talk to them, let them understand how they are going to support them or how they may not interact with them at all. So that's because that does happen too.
Yeah.
And so, it's a mutual evaluation. They're evaluating us, but we're also evaluating them. We want to see how they handle themselves at dinner the night before. We want to see how they handle themselves in the office the day of, how they communicate with the staff. Are they respectful? That's also key because sometimes that doesn't happen either, where a franchisee is respectful to the staff and to the people that help support them. And so we take all that into account. There's not just one person making the decision. I don't make that decision solely. A group of us get together after every Meet the Team Day, and we talk about the franchisees, and we decide, is this a good fit or not for us? There's been a few people that aren't a good fit, and that does happen. That's probably turns out better for everybody involved. But then there's people like Bob who, like I said, we go through the process and we get a strong feeling that this person may be successful in the business. And then, we send them an award letter and then we get their decision. Their decision is the first big business decision they have to make. And this is it. Do I want to be a part of this or not? Yes or no? And so then once that happens, then, we go through the rest of the process there.
Yeah. You mentioned validation. A lot of people listening or watching at home don't necessarily get what validation is, but it is the best part of the process.
Absolutely.
Because you can read the franchise disclosure document and get a lot of information, great information in a good item 19, talking about sales figures, but you really want to know, Bob, when did you start making money? Or when did you stop losing money?
Yeah.
And what was the hardest part? What was the hardest part, by the way? What was the hardest part growing this to where you are now?
My hardest part in this business is relinquishing the position of me not doing it. So in other words, I have to really understand in order to grow my business, I can't do it all. So I have to put people that I respect and I think they can do the job. I need to count on them to do it and just let them do it. And I need to take a step back and just let it go. And that's the hardest part of my being, is that I'm not so much of a control freak, but I do believe that I do it very well, and I really enjoy doing it. So I don't wake up thinking I'm going to my job. I wake up knowing I'm going to help a customer.
This is the gold when I do these interviews, because what Bob's talking about is the reason he's been able to scale so quickly. Because once you give up control and you have to do things through other people, you can grow.
You absolutely can. And, one of the accolades we didn't even talk about, Bob won in 2024.
There's more?
There's more. In only a few months of him being in business as a franchisee, he won our CARES Award, CARES. And there's an acronym for that. It's community, accountability, respect, excellence, and service. That's voted on not only by the staff at Homefront Brands and Top Rail Fence, but also by the other franchisees in the system. And Bob won that award. And I can tell you, by riding along with him and watching him interact with the customers, he certainly deserved that award. But with that said, one of the things that successful entrepreneurs, successful business owners, probably the hardest thing they have to do is learn to give up something so that they can do other things and grow the business. And so, Bob's not necessarily unique in that regard. A lot of successful franchisees and just business owners in general have to learn when is the right time to delegate, and so that they can go do other things that are important to growing the big business. You heard his aspirations. He wants to grow a huge business. Can't do that by himself. So he's got to put a good team around him. And the unique thing, we deal a lot with subcontractors or installers, that are installing the fences. I heard not a long time ago, but a few years ago, one of our founders at Top Rail Fence, his name's Tucker. Tucker said, if you treat them like employees, talking about your contractors and your installers, if you treat them like employees, they will act like employees. And so Bob treats all of his people like employees, and that's why he gets the most out of them. That's why he's been able to be successful. And that's also why he wins a CARES Award, because not only how he treats his customers, but how he treats his employees as well.
Amazing. I hope somebody's buying your trophy case.
No, not at this
He has
time.
one in his office. Don't let him fool you.
Maybe an extra room in your house.
I am very humbled for all the accolades that Todd has given me, and quite frankly, I'm honored to be part of the team. So thank you.
That's awesome. We were talking about your path to 4 million coming soon. What are the margins like in the business? And by the way, before you answer, this is a question, as you can imagine, in franchising, we get for every brand. My home care brands, all home service brands. Lance, what are the margins? And as you guys know, virtually no franchisors have anything about margins. They might give you some little hints and clues here and there, but nobody's spelling that out anywhere because it's, FTC and the whole 9 yards. But you, the franchisee, Bob, can divulge what the margins might be. But are we talking, can you net 20% in this business?
20%. 15 is very achievable. 20 may be tough depending on the market. But in order to be fair, I'd say between 14 and 17 is a fair number.
Yeah, and you're operating, how hard are you working in the business? Is your wife also in the business full-time?
My wife is now full-time in the business. She is a big part of my team. She recently retired in retail space just a couple of months ago because we're now grandparents for the first time.
Congrats!
So,
more employees.
More employees.
I love it.
Yeah.
More employees.
People on the payroll.
Indeed. But I have her as part of my partner, and we're doing very well. She's really in the back part of the office and making sure things are happening in the back.
And let's not make no mistake about this. Stacy is an unsung hero in the business. That I think
Women
Bob will
usually
agree
are.
with that too.
Yes.
She does a lot more that she doesn't get seen or recognized, but she's super important to the business.
Absolutely.
Todd, how long have you been involved with Top Rim?
Since its inception. So we acquired the business from the founders. That was not named Top Rail Fence. It was a different name, different location.
How long ago was this?
Gosh, almost 3 years ago now.
3 years.
Yeah, so I said 2.5. It's actually been almost 3 years. It was in July of 2022. We acquired the business, and we went through the whole naming, crowdsourcing. So this version of Top Rail that you see, the name, the logo, the colors, is new. The business itself is not. It was in business about 8 years before we acquired it.
And you have about how many franchisees these days?
We have almost 60 franchisees with nearly 200 territories awarded.
So the average owner, I'd have to do quick math, definitely has more than one territory and probably 2.5 territories of
Roughly
franchisee.
2.5, yeah.
Right.
And math's not my strong suit either, so it's something like 2.7, 2.8, roughly somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah.
And I'm sure they're still calling you up and saying, I want more territory.
They are. This guy is.
I was just going to ask that question because I noted that you had 2 and maybe more.
Yes, that'll be additional 2 coming up in the next 60 days.
And where are you now? What
We're
are
in
you?
Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia. Got it. So expansion when your thought process, like a lot of franchisees, I'm sure the brand's going to be great. Let me start with 2. I'll ask him for more territory as I'm executing the plan, and it worked.
Totally.
So is that the plan? Maybe more? Are you going to expand to different states?
I would like to stay in Virginia, but additional territories in Virginia.
Yeah. The additional territories is not in Richmond. It's in a whole different market altogether.
Yeah, correct.
Give me the elevator pitch on Top Rail. I love niches, and this isn't a niche like electrical or air conditioning or plumbing or roofing. It's still technical, but it seems easier. It doesn't mean I'm not saying I could do it easily,
Right.
but it seems not as difficult. Am I crazy?
Well, in theory, it's not as difficult. I will say that. But turns out fencing is actually fairly technical. So there is a lot of different installation methods, standards, different material types, different fencing types that are installed in different regions all throughout the U.S. So what happens in the Pacific Northwest, the material they use, the styles of fences, even the way they put up wood fences horizontally as opposed to vertically is different than, say, the Southeast where Bob is. So it turns out it's actually fairly technical.
So depending on the regions, though, that's what I was going to ask you, because I know when I go back east, I'm originally from New York, I see specific types of fences that I don't see in Las Vegas where I live.
That's right.
And then you go to Texas, see a lot of those wood fences that get blown away every time there's a tornado. So I can't figure that out. But all I know is it's good for the fence business.
They won't get blown away if you follow the Top Rail installation standards.
Okay, good.
We have that in place. But yes, you're correct. Different regions of the country, 4 or 5 different regions have different, like I said, installation, even methods. Just a very quick example, where Bob is, he does a lot of wood fencing, and with that wood, they use a lot of 4x4 posts just to attach the rails and the pickets to. But you go to Oklahoma, and they use metal posts. And there's a reason for that. The ground's drier, so there's not a lot of moisture, and so there's reasons for that. And plus, there's just style differences as well. Different parts of the country use different styles of fences because of the terrain or something like that. So yeah.
And your internal team knows that. So if somebody's setting up in Oklahoma versus Virginia versus New York, you know what those styles differences. They might not know yet, but you're going to teach them that.
Correct. Yeah, and we're still learning too. Just to be upfront,
But you have the in-house experts that are going to figure it out.
We do. We got 3 support people that have fencing experience and backgrounds, and then we do divide our franchisees. The support those our operations managers give our franchisees is done by region for that exact purpose. Is they need to know the standards and the material types in that market so that they can support it. And so we've done that and designed it that way for that specific reason.
So this question is for both of you. If you would think of your friends that are the best franchise owners, besides you, of course, think of those top 3 in mind. Where do these people come from? If they weren't in the fence business, because in most franchises, they didn't come from that industry, kind of all over.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, the ones I can think of right off the top of my head, very specifically, one was in real estate. Was a realtor, a very successful realtor. Became one of the owners. One of the top franchisees in our system was I'm going to get this wrong exactly what it was, but it was in the IT space, selling like server hardware and data facilities. And one of the top franchisees in the system, just killing it right now. One of the other ones was actually another Homefront Brands franchisee that wanted to expand their portfolio. They acquired.
I was going to ask you, how many times that happens? They like Homefront? They're comfortable with the marketing and everything. And
yep. Top Rail Fence specifically has 4 owners that own multiple brands with Homefront, and other brands have other holdings as well. So we do have it. It's not half our system or anything like that, but it is an up and coming theme where people want to own multiple brands within the Homefront Brands umbrella.
Makes perfect sense. Anything to add to that?
Yeah. Just to reiterate a little bit on that. All walks of life can come into this business. You are right, in a sense that it's technical, but it's learnable. And with the right help and the right support, you can get the technicals really down pat in a very short period of time, as long as you're willing to keep that openness to you.
Right. And remember, we got other franchisees in mostly in those regions that can help support other franchisees as well. So not only our people, but other franchisees support each other.
Absolutely. That mastermind effect. Technical, but learnable. I'm not going to forget that. That was great.
It's good, Bob. I like that.
That's the Bob phrase right there.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm like a broken clock. I get it right twice a day.
You nailed it, Bob. On the marketing side of things, Todd, why don't you start off, and we'll have Bob chime in as well because he's experiencing it. Obviously, if he's grown the way he has, I'm sure it wasn't just all his good looks, but it's got to be some sort of customer acquisition strategy that you guys have. Talk a little bit about the marketing.
So, marketing in any business, not just the fencing business, has to be more than one channel. So you can't just go all digital. You can't go all local. What we preach, and I'm going to use this term because one of our marketing people loves it, and it's the 3-legged stool. We're trying to get digital, social, local marketing, all of that stuff combined to make you successful. And Bob does phenomenal at that. Okay, so when you go to Richmond, people know Bob Stewart in Richmond. And not just him, but other franchisees in the Top Rail system. The successful franchisees hit all of those channels, and they do it well. And so, we start with digital. That's obviously the way you can play and go fast. Okay, so that is the PPC, the Google pay-per-click, all that digital spend. So that's route number 1. Route number 2, and this is all wrapped up in what we call our 90-day sprint. So we kind of have your first 90 days scripted for you on what you should be doing daily, weekly, which referral sources you should be contacting and how often. And if you do that, it doesn't guarantee you to be successful, but it gives you a much better start. One of our mantras in our office at Homefront Brands is if you start well, you go well. So we try to get you off to as good a start as possible. So we want you hitting your local market, all of those influencers in the marketplace, those referral sources that can be of help to you, and maybe you can be of help back to them, right? You if you want to get something, you got to give something. So, we want to make sure you're developing the right referral sources in the marketplace. And then, I say this, I don't know if this makes sense to anybody else, it makes sense to me. But unless you have the big golden arches, McDonald's sign outside your door, nobody just walks up and hands you money. They have to know you exist in the marketplace. And so the only way to do that is a multi-pronged approach. You got to you got to do it online. They got to see you online, and multi-channels online as well. They also have to see you in your local community. You have to network. You got to create the centers of influence in your marketplace, and we want to help. We want to help foster that.
Yeah.
Some do it better than others. Bob does it better than others. That's been part of his strategy all along. Is he spends on marketing. He's not afraid to spend on marketing.
Yeah.
A lot of franchisees, not just franchisees, but business owners in general, when times get tough, what do? They stop spending on marketing.
Alligator arms.
That's right. They do.
Yeah.
They're not spending money and grabbing their wallet.
And it should be the opposite. All right, it should be the opposite. You got to get in front of more people. If you're not doing well, you got to have more customers. So get in front of more people. That's the strategy that we employ.
So what's been your biggest marketing success?
My marketing is all of what Todd just said. I do a lot of paper, a lot of print, digital, TV. I'm not afraid to spend money. It takes money to make money. And quite frankly, when the market's not doing so well, that's when I tend to do the best that in this market. I go blazing, because everyone else that's not spending, then I put myself out there and I'm spending more than ever.
He jumps right in front of them.
The road to 4 million. You heard it here from Bob. So Bob and Todd, you guys have been fabulous. It's always great to have an amazing superstar franchise owner.
Thank you.
Bob, your final thoughts for today, final words of wisdom for the audience, aspiring entrepreneurs especially?
Just to do what's in your heart, do what's in your mind, do it for your family, and the bank account always comes next. If it's in your heart and it's in your family and you want to truly do a great job for your community, the success is going to come right behind you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Todd?
Well, I've been in franchising a long time, so I'm clearly biased. I do believe that franchising, if you're going to start a business, this is the best way to do it, and there's no better time than now. I wished I would have became a business owner way sooner than I did.
Yeah.
And we hear that a lot from everybody else. So time is now. There's no better way to start a business. So if you want independence, this is the way to do it. This is the franchising is the way to do it. And there's no better place to do it in Las Vegas at the International Franchise Association Convention to deliver that message.
You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.